F1 is one of the most entertaining sports on the planet, and it's easy to see why. High-performance vehicles, skilled drivers, amazing landscapes, and stakes, the thrill, all of it combined to make one of the most watched sports in the world. But with all of the breakneck speeds and adrenaline, there is bound to be some accidents. And in today's video, we're going to take a look at F1 tragedies that changed the sport forever. Fair warning, this video is going to have some violent stories, and viewer discretion is advised. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. Ronnie Peterson multi-car pileup. Ronnie Peterson was one of the best racers back in the 70s, and he unfortunately died during a multi-car pileup during the Italian Grand Prix in 1978. Peterson was driving for Lotus when he was hit from behind and forced into the right-hand sidewall after two vehicles behind him got into a wreck, which caused them to slide into him. The three vehicles got caught up on the wall, which caused the vehicle behind them to crash into them, causing the pileup to become unavoidable for other cars coming into that part of the track at full speed. One of these cars hit Peterson's vehicle, which caused it to go up in flames, which unfortunately was the cause of Peterson's death. This crash was incredibly tragic, but it was the root cause for F1 to review their medical protocols and change how they administer medical help to crash victims. Furthermore, this crash caused the creators of the Monza track, the track in which the Italian Grand Prix was held, to redesign the barriers and change the way that the pit fit into the track. It has made the track much safer, and with these two added safety precautions, F1 is much safer for all racers. Hopefully in the future, we can spot the need for safety changes prior to a life-ending accident. Rest in peace, Ronnie Peterson. Ayrton Senna's horrible crash. As I'm sure most of you know, Ayrton Senna was one of the greatest racers of all time, and when he passed away during the 1994 San Marino Grand Prix, the entire racing world was mortified. It was terribly difficult for the rest of the season to proceed, as just earlier that same week, the great Australian racer Roland Ratzenberger passed away in the qualifying race. Senna was carrying the Australian flag in his car to pay homage to his fellow racer when he unfortunately turned a corner on lap 7 while overshooting the distance between his car and the wall, forcing him to collide with a bare concrete wall at 131 miles per hour. Senna obviously died on impact, but he was found with 3 devastating injuries. One was a loose piece of the vehicle's transmission that had shot directly at Senna due to the impact and embedded itself into his body. The second was one of the car's tires striking Senna's head, and the third was caused when he collided with the wall itself. The crash was horrific, and it was a brutal weekend for the F1 community. However, it did cause F1 to take a look at safety precautions to keep drivers much safer. The crash caused F1 to do everything it could to ensure that high-speed collisions will never be fatal ever again. Moreover, the design of the car was changed to ensure that loose parts of a vehicle will never be shot at the driver ever again. The crash Senna went through was horrific, but it was made even worse by the fact that a piece of the car caused an additional injury that would have left Senna with a devastating injury if he survived the crash. Once again, it is a shame that it took a crash like this to make F1 change the way cars were designed and change the way the walls absorbed an impact. But thankfully, F1 will now be safer going forward. Rest in peace, Ayrton Senna. Roland Ratzenberger's qualifying incident. As we previously mentioned, the weekend that claimed the life of Ayrton Senna also claimed the life of fellow racer Roland Ratzenberger. In one of the worst weekends F1 racing has ever seen, Roland was trying to qualify for the 1994 San Marino Grand Prix, the race that Senna passed away in, when during his qualifying race, he slid off the track, causing some unseen damage to the front of his vehicle. The damage sustained during his slip-up caused some of Roland's front wing to become dislodged from the front of his car, thus propelling it under his vehicle while it was traveling well over 190 miles per hour. The loose piece caused Ratzenberger to lose control of his car and crash into the concrete barrier, killing him almost instantly due to a skull fracture. This crash, along with the crash that Senna sustained, both caused F1 to reconsider how drivers take turns at high speeds and take the necessary precautions to ensure that crashes at high speeds become less dangerous. Ratzenberger and Senna were both victims of unfortunate circumstances that could have been avoided due to the car's design, and now F1 cars are made in such a way that pieces of the vehicle are unlikely to strike the driver or the vehicle should they become detached from the body of the vehicle. Of course, this should have been a precaution implemented prior to the deaths of both of these racers, but apparently taking action after an accident is the nature of the sport. Rest in peace, Roland Ratzenberger. Jules Bianchi loses control on a wet track. Jules Bianchi was just 25 years old when he unfortunately lost his life on a wet track during the 2014 Japan Grand Prix. The road was slick due to rain, and thus the double yellow caution flag was being waved to warn drivers to slow down. The French driver could not sufficiently slow down enough when he got to a corner in which another driver had already crashed. The previous crash was being lifted out with a crane, which Bianchi could not avoid. Bianchi struck the crane at full speed, which caused severe head trauma. Bianchi slipped into a coma, and 9 months after the crash, he lost his life. This crash stunned the F1 community, as this crash went against the safety precautions put in place following Senna's crash. This crash made F1 dive even deeper into making racing safer, including waving a red flag rather than a double yellow when the course needs to be cleared due to a crash. And this crash forced F1 to implement the halo head protection system that is in place in F1 vehicles now. Lucky the halo system has done an amazing job of keeping drivers safe since its implementation. This is once again another instance in which Bianchi needlessly lost his life due to a lack of precautions that should have been implemented/enforced earlier prior to this tragic incident. It just goes to show that in a sport as fast and as dangerous as F1, there is no such thing as too much precaution. Rest in peace, Jules Bianchi. Tom Price's horrible lap. Tom Price was caught in the wrong place at the wrong time, which resulted in not only his own death, but the death of a teenaged marshal. Price was speeding around a corner like he would normally do during a race when he was met with a fate-changing scene. The lap prior, a vehicle had crashed and started on fire, which prompted one of the marshals to get into his fire gear and rush out to the scene. By the time the marshal had gotten out onto the track, Price was rounding the corner with no knowledge that Marshall was on the track. Price collided with the marshal, whose name was Frederik Jansen van Vuren, which killed him instantly. But Van Vuren was carrying a fire extinguisher to put out the flaming vehicle at the time of his collision, which he obviously lost control of following the crash. The extinguisher collided with Price's helmet, causing his helmet strap to come loose and partially decapitated him, which was the result of his death. This incident is what caused F1 to ensure that red and yellow flags are more easily visible to other drivers to ensure that something like this never happens again, ensuring that no marshal or driver is ever involved in an accident like this ever again. The lack of visibility of the flag is an oversight on the part of the F1 community and undoubtedly led to these needless deaths. The visibility of these flags needed to be a higher priority to this incident, and if F1 was more intuitive, we would not have to have a list like this. Rest in peace, Tom Price and Frederik Jansen van Vuren. Gilles Villeneuve, ill-time pass. Canadian racing legend Gilles Villeneuve got in a terrible accident after he attempted to improve his qualifying time in the final lap of the 1982 Belgian Grand Prix qualifying race. Villeneuve needed to beat the time of Didier Pironi, who was slightly faster heading into the final lap. This caused Villeneuve to look for any opportunity to gain some ground, and when he saw the car in front of him, piloted by Johan Mass, slow down, he attempted to pass him on his right. Villeneuve's left front tire collided with the back of Mass's car, which sent Villeneuve's car airborne, almost 400 feet. The car came back down in a nosedive which collided with the track, causing fatal injuries to Villeneuve. Villeneuve lived on life support for a brief time before giving in to his injuries. This crash was one that nobody saw coming, and I don't think anyone ever imagined having to watch a car going that fast take flight and come hurtling back down towards the track. But it was an issue that we will likely never see again. F1 vehicles were redesigned to keep cars glued to the ground, and since this awful incident, we have rarely seen another car even lift from the tarmac even after a collision or a wobble. This traumatic incident was unimaginable, but one we will likely never see again. Rest in peace, Gilles Villeneuve. That's all we have for you guys today on the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope these incidents can serve as tales that preach safety and precaution when doing any anything at high speeds. F1 is an incredible spectacle, but we hope we never see anything like these incidents ever again. We only wish the best for all of the drivers of F1 and the families of the people involved in these tragic incidents. If you have a fond memory of any of the drivers mentioned in today's video, don't be afraid to mention it in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more videos. We hope you enjoyed today's content, and we'll see you all in the next video.